The time is now 6:04. We will go ahead and get started this evening. When you are speaking, please be sure to unmute your microphone to be heard on the broadcast. The public who did not register in advance can watch the live broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. Para servicios de traducción en español en vivo, por favor marque 720-386-9023 y use el código 104091.
Thank you. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment to order. Before getting to our agenda, I would like to recognize Board Member Aaron Valtakis as an alternate who will be sitting on the board this evening. Will staff please do roll call?
Board Member Leffel.
Present.
Board Member Frey-Waite.
Present.
Board Member Hernandez.
Present?
Board Member Poe.
Here.
Board Member Douglas. And Board Member Valtakis.
Here.
Chair, you have quorum.
Great, thank you. Okay, and can I get a motion and a second to record Board Member Douglas's absent as excused or unexcused?
I make a motion to move for an excused absence for Board Member Douglas is recorded as excused.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Frey-Waite and a second by Board Member Poe. Please open the electronic voting. We have 5 yeses, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the April 14th, 2026 meeting minutes?
I move that the Board of Adjustment approve the April 14th, 2026 meeting minutes.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Valtakis and a second by Board Member Frey-Waite. Can we please open the electronic voting?
Madam Chair, I'm going to request to abstain since I wasn't here at that meeting.
Thank you. Okay, 4 yeses, 1 no vote.
That's a not voted.
Abstain.
Okay.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. There used to be though, right? All right. I will now open the public hearing on case AV 26-0007, David Valverde, shade structure variance. The applicant has requested that this application be continued to the next Board of Adjustment meeting scheduled for June 9th, 2026. Can I have a motion and a second to continue AV 26-0007, David Valverde, shade structure variance to June 9th, 2026?
I'll move to that the Board of Adjustment continue the April 14th, 2026 meeting until the next Board of Adjustment regular meeting scheduled for June 9th of 2026.
Second.
Thank you.
For correction, quickly, that was the proposed motion. If we were going to continue, you need to continue the actual item. So if you turn the page to the next page on page 2, there's a motion for continuing that one.
Thank you, legal. Let's go ahead and I move that the Board of Adjustment continue the public hearing of the requested variance for the property located at 7050 East 75th Place, contained in the case of AV 26-0007, to next Board of Adjustment regular meeting scheduled for June 9th And that would substitute the first motion if there are no denials.
And I will second that motion.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have a motion by Board Member Voltakis and a second by Board Member Fry White. Is there any discussion by the board? It appears none, so we'll go ahead and move on. If we can please open the electronic voting. Okay, 5 yeses, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, I'll now open the public hearing on case AU 25-0004, K2 Civil Consultants, Inc., used by permit approval. Staff will present, followed by the applicant. At the conclusion of both presentations, I'll open the floor for any questions from the board. Once all questions have been asked, the public will have an opportunity to comment on the case. We will start with members of the public attending in person before moving on to those attending virtually. With that, I will ask Planner Nathan Chavez to please present this case.
Chair, prior to the start of this case, I do want to note for the record that I do live within the neighborhood of Cobblestone. I do not have a financial interest, and I do believe I can be impartial on this case, but I did want to put that on the record.
In case AU 25-0004, K2 Civil Consultants Incorporated, on behalf of the property owner, are requesting use by permit approval to allow for an automobile washing facility within the Settlers Crossing Plan Unit Development. The 1.37 acre site is zoned PUD and located near the southeast corner of Tower Road and Settlers Lane. So good evening, Chair and board members. It's nice to see you all again. So as just stated during the case introduction, the applicant is seeking approval of a use by permit for an automobile washing facility within the Settlers Crossing PUD. The site is within a commercial mixed-use planning area of the Settlers Crossing PUD, which extends to the north, south, and east of the subject site. The Legato PUD is to the south, just across 96th Avenue, and then to the west is unincorporated Adams County, and that property is zoned Agricultural 3. There are currently 3 concurrent cases for the site, including a PUD development permit for the actual automobile washing facility structure and site plan and layout, as well as a plat subdividing, I believe, 5 lots and 3 tracks, and then another PUD development permit for the actual infrastructure of the internal roadways within the Settlers Crossing PUD in this specific planning area. So this is an aerial from February 6th of this year. The overall site and much of the surrounding land is vacant with planned commercial uses. And then to the northeast is recently constructed and planned residential. So the board continued the case from the April 14th hearing per the applicant's request in order to allow the applicant's time to address staff's concerns. In the packet, the board will find an updated narrative, site plan, and a conceptual pedestrian connectivity and amenities report, all of which staff will go into further detail with this presentation. So within the 2045 comprehensive plan, the site is designated as northern neighborhoods within the character areas land use map, where the red star is on your screen. And within this character area, commercial is a secondary land use meant to support the primary land use, residential. Within the economic development framework map, the site is designated as Northern Range Commercial, which calls for the promotion of commercial centers that contain a variety of attractive retail and entertainment options for all ages, with high multimodal access, 360 architecture, pedestrian scale development, and integrated outdoor seating and gathering spaces. And then lastly, within the Tower Road Connected Corridor map, the site is designated as Northern Range Commercial, where commercial should aim to create community destinations incorporating attractive pedestrian-oriented environments like public gathering spaces and outdoor seating areas. And then lastly, staff found that the proposed use by permit meets the following goals from the 2045 comprehensive plan, including but not limited to improving the image of the city with a new development as opposed to vacant farmland, optimizing water quality through the car wash's utilization of water recycling, and then providing neighborhood services near residential areas. So the car wash is planned to front Tower Road with vehicular access from the site from Argonne Street. This updated site plan provides greater pedestrian connectivity from Tower Road at the bottom left-hand corner through the site to Argonne Street. In addition, there is an outdoor seating area now proposed in the northeast corner of the site. And these revisions are intended to address the Economic Development Framework map, as well as the Tower Road Connected Corridor map, and those designations for more pedestrian scale, pedestrian-friendly spaces with some outdoor gathering locations. So the applicant's team also developed the conceptual pedestrian connectivity and amenities report, which is included in your packet. This report includes text describing goals of the development, site amenities, and map exhibits depicting how gathering spaces and pedestrian connections are provided throughout the broader Settlers Crossing planning area, the planning area. So as of today, staff has received 4 written comments, 1 opposed and 3 in support for the application. Tonight, there should be a comment letter that was distributed to you all, which is from Mr. I think Charles Trimmer, and it is a flip from opposition to support. And I can also pull that up if you have trouble finding that at any time. And so staff determined that the application meets the approval criteria for section 21-3221.3 of the Land Development Code, the 2009 Land Development Code. Specifically, the proposed car wash is designed to mitigate the impacts of noise and lighting related to the use on adjacent properties by providing adequate setback, landscaping, and upgraded building design. Reviews of the 3 accompanying applications, which I mentioned earlier in this presentation, will ensure adequate improvements will serve the site, such as roadways, utility connections, and sidewalks and other paths. Likewise, review agencies and the city staff found that there are no significant issues precluding the proposed use from developing on this site. So through the review process of the subject use by permit and corresponding PD development permit for the actual land use, city staff and external review agencies found that the use at the proposed location can be adequately served by the respective providers, such as Xcel Energy or the Water District. In addition, the Water District calculated that this use will require roughly 14.3 ERUs, or equivalent residential units, for the actual car wash, and then these ERUs will be provided either by the Water District or brought in from outside the Water District by the owner, 96 Tower Investors LLC. So the applicant provided materials that demonstrate that their proposal for the broader Settlers Crossing retail area meets the objectives in the comprehensive plan in terms of providing neighborhood-level retail and services. In addition, the applicant demonstrated a complete plan for pedestrian connectivity and gathering spaces on the car wash site and in the broader Settlers Crossing area, all with the intent to better meet the Economic Development Framework map, as well as the Northern or Tower Road Connected Corridor map. It's a mouthful, some of these maps, I'm sorry. And then lastly, while staff found that criteria B2 is not met, only one of the criteria under subsection B must be met, and that was the first one, the use is in harmony with general purposes and goals, objectives, and standards of the comprehensive plan. And so as a result, staff recommends the Board of Adjustment approve case AU 25-0004 based on the finding that the application meets the approval criteria of the Land Development Code, as well as for the following reasons. Settlers Crossing is a commercial development project that will provide several new retail development sites to the emerging Tower Road corridor. These new sites have the potential to be catalytic and are expected to attract several new retailers and other commercial tenants to this intersection. And finally, this project will allow our Economic Development Division to advocate for more uses that meet the goals outlined within our Economic Development Strategic Plan. At this point, staff, that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you all have after the applicant's presentation.
Great, thank you. If the applicant would like to present.
I do have some questions for our planner before the next presentation, though.
We're going to have him present, and then we'll open up for questions to staff and the applicant.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Kelton McCoy. I'm here on behalf of Cobblestone today. I want to start off by saying thank you to staff for your hard work and your staff report. Also, thank you, board members, for your time today. In conjunction with the staff report, this application meets the approval criteria and the comp plan set forth by Commerce City Development Code. Although in use criteria B2, the staff report does detail that this application for Cobblestone is non-compliant due to other car washes in the area, it's our understanding that neither one should be determined on this review. The site on 104th and Tower, under our understanding, is one of self-serve nature. That is not what we would be proposing here. Cobblestone will be proposing much, much more. We're providing a quick dry detailing service in conjunction with our staple Cobblestone wet wash and free vacuums that you see all over the state of Colorado. As for the other site mentioned in the staff report being as a conflict, the 104th and Chambers, this is over 2 miles from the subject site that we're talking about today. Not to mention, in one of your public comments in your packet, there is a concerned neighbor that is a far trek to wash their car. So something to think of there. Other than the one approval criteria, as mentioned by staff, we do meet the other ones with flying colors as well as the comp plan. With that being said, we did work very hard with staff to come up with the plans that you will see today. And in that is some coordination with the Settlers Crossing team. Daniel is here today, and I'm going to let him go ahead and speak on this master plan in specific.
Good evening, members of the board. We sincerely appreciate your time this evening and, of course, staff's time reviewing and working with us on this application. My name is Daniel Frank. I'm here on behalf of 96 Tower Investors, LLC, the owner of Planning Area A at Settlers Crossing at the northeast corner of Tower Road and 96th Avenue. We've owned this property for approximately 19 years now. What you have before you tonight is a special use permit for the proposed cobblestone car wash located along Tower Road, just south of Settlers Lane. This is part of our first phase of commercial development at Settlers Crossing, which will consist of 5 total lots. The other proposed uses in this first phase are an urgent care clinic, a dentist clinic with additional tenant space, and a restaurant. The car wash is a very crucial piece of this first phase and will enable us to construct the infrastructure needed for the other 4 lots. So I want to emphasize this is a really important part of that. We've also provided to staff a proposed conceptual pedestrian connectivity and amenity package that demonstrates how this commercial neighborhood center will function, not as a drive-to retail strip, but as a genuinely walkable extension of Settlers Crossing community. The plan establishes continuous 2-tiered pedestrian network, primary connections along the perimeter streets and the main site spine, and secondary connections through the parking fields. Converging at 4 gathering areas that anchor the site at 96th and Tower, the interior commercial core, and 2 direct links to filings 1, 2, 3, and the neighborhood park, as well as future planning area A. We believe this package squarely advances the walkable mixed-use center goals of the 2045 comprehensive plan and the land development code, and we look forward to moving forward with the development and bringing neighborhood services to the area. And I'm happy to answer any questions when the time comes, and appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Heading back to the Cobblestone site, which is ultimately what we're reviewing here today as a part of this review. This is an interior site along Tower Road, and there is some history actually here with Cobblestone and the city of Commerce City. Initially, during our pre-application process back in 2024, we were guided to be on this specific lot here, shaded in red. Initially, we had the lot that bordered 97th Avenue, but as a part of the pre-app process, we were guided to this lot. We spent the money on design. Ultimately, we got to where we are today. We understand that there are some concerns with the proximity to residential, so we went ahead and did a rough estimate from the first residential dwelling to our building. It's roughly around 1,000 feet, not to mention there's going to be 3 commercial lots to buffer those in the planned development. We do get access off of Argonne Street, as mentioned by staff, so limited impact to the surrounding areas from a sound and traffic standpoint. Diving into the site specifics of Cobblestone here, We worked hard with staff, as mentioned, and we did everything that we could. My design team is actually here tonight, K2. They're a very good civil firm here in the local area, so they understand the codes very well. And so we were able to give everything that we could from a pedestrian access standpoint, and that is that sidewalk there on the south. Due to some grading, we looked at putting it on the north. We looked at a lot of options. Ultimately, we landed on this. The pedestrian seating area would be accessed off Argonne, ultimately unlocking the entire development from Tower Road, from our site specifically. As I mentioned, in addition, we added the seating area there. That specific design is obviously up, and we would listen to recommendations from staff or from the board, but we're allocating that area to be such. I wanted to touch on water. As everyone in the state of Colorado knows, it's a very hot topic. As a part of our submittal process, South Adams County Water District reviewed our application, confirmed that this use will not impact the existing infrastructure that there is today, and that infrastructure does have necessary capacity. To wrap this up, this is a great tax-creating end user for this town, for this city, and ultimately is the best and highest and best use of this parcel. Cobblestone has 45 current locations around Colorado, none of this prototype. And so this is a very well-known name across the state that will be coming to your city, providing a great tax beneficiary. As mentioned, my design team is here. The developer's here as well to answer any specific questions. I did want to circle back shortly on staff's recommendation. We as the applicant do accept staff's findings and recommendations and encourage the board to do so the same. I do appreciate your guys' time, and we're open to any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We'll start with questions to staff from the board. Board, do you have any? Fryway, you have a question?
Can you please pull up your presentation, Mr. Chavez? Thank you. On one of your slides, you listed, these ones, thank you. So in your original report, you note that B1, those sections that does not meet the criteria, these are the comp plan requirements, correct? I just want to clarify.
They are not requirements, they are goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan.
Oh, okay, which we are,
I'm sorry.
we are reviewing, as that is the requirement for B1, does it meet those requirements?
The approval criteria B1 states or asks, is the proposed use in harmony with the general purposes, goals, objectives, and standards of the comprehensive plan? So as a part of the review process, staff also looks at the goals and objectives outlined within the comprehensive plan and takes those into consideration as well.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that for my understanding for the record. So I read your initial review, and the bullet points, the environmental responsibility, character area goal 1.1, 2.4, our environmental goal 7, and housing neighborhood goal 6.3, you're stating that the development does not meet those in your initial review, correct?
In the initial staff report, yes, but since working with the applicant and understanding what the Cobblestone brand brings and how they have the water recycling, that helps sway the city and staff's recommendation and view on the proposed use by permit.
So nothing changed? It was just your recommendation changed on the site plan?
So I can, if I may, what changed, excuse me, Mike Sutherland, I'm the Community Development Director. What changed from in the space in between when this was continued was the site plan itself. The applicant revised the site plan to include pedestrian amenities, which helped to bridge the gap between the initial site plan and the comprehensive plan. Also, the context was illuminated a little bit more. And I think the context of how this car wash fits into the site and the pedestrian improvements that will be included into the overall site helped to meet the approval criteria in staff's opinion. So yes, the application and the application changed, the site plan changed, and also the context is now clearer.
On the slide, can you please move to the site plan and indicate what changed? Because I'm not quite, I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Of course. So it is two items. One is a newly proposed sidewalk along the southern boundary running from the Tower Road existing path to the future planned Argonne Street path, adding more pedestrian connectivity. And then the second is a proposed seating area in the northeast corner of the site, meeting the intent for two of the framework maps to introduce gathering spaces in more public areas within these specific, or I guess in the Northern Range commercial designations for two of the framework maps.
In your opinion, how does that adding a seating area for a car-centric facility and a sidewalk going from a parking lot to a road, an arterial road, meet the goals that you cited that were not met in 1.1 and 2.4? So the one that talks about the neighborhood level services within residential areas as appropriate, and 2.4, designing an economy that creates a sense of community. Because adding I'm not understanding what that, like, these are very minor adjustments to any site plan. This isn't like a big change, and so I don't see how, if those particular two goals out of the list that you provided, like, to me, that's not a big change, and so I don't understand why staff would change so dramatically from no on this one to yes. If you can please clarify that for us. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll answer your questions as I remember them. You're asking them. I guess your last question, this change, with any review of any application, one can always find where an application does or does not meet the goals and objectives, or a comprehensive, plan framework map. And so it's a matter of weighing the scale. And in this instance, the applicant proposed these two improvements, as well as discussed with staff more about their water recycling and the overall pedestrian connectivity in the context of the Settlers Crossing planning area. And we found that outweighs the goals and objectives where there is conflict with the comprehensive plan. Certainly, there's never going to be a application that comes in that meets every single goal and objective, or does not have any conflicts with the comprehensive plan. But with the supplemental staff report, we outlined, or staff outlined, where exactly it did meet those goals, objectives, and the framework maps. And to answer your first question, board member, while one can see those two improvements as minor, it's important to understand the context of the land use. It is an auto-centric use, and adding these two things are going above and beyond what's required. In addition, they're adding an amenity of sorts for the users of the car wash, as well as residents and neighbors. Now there's another connection where people can cut through this property to access Tower Road, or from Tower Road into Settlers Crossing to eventually utilize other businesses or get to their homes faster in Settlers Lane.
I do have additional questions, but I do want to be respectful of my colleagues.
Do we have other questions?
I do,
Start
but
with Board Member Baltakis, and then we'll go to you, Board Member Poe.
I noticed in the presentation, I've heard a lot about the economic vitality, which is a core principle in the comp plan. Also, I see that safe, healthy, and livability in the city, I'm quoting from the comp plan. Welcoming and equitable city, and the last one, environmentally responsible city. When you look down on that core principle, it specifically states water resources. So first I want to start with, I'd like to make that statement, and then I want to start with, can you explain what the comp plan is? When did it come into effect? When was it amended? And basically just a general overview on why we're here, because it's not a use obviously listed, correct?
That is incorrect, with all due respect.
Okay.
Per the Settlers Crossing PUD, an automobile washing facility requires a use by permit within this specific planning area. And so that's why we're here today, is because the PUD states
But it's not a use by right.
that is correct.
That's why we're here.
Correct.
And we're
I'm
using
sorry if
the- We're using the comp plan to, well, go ahead and answer. What is the comp plan? Why do we have it? When was it enacted?
Yep. The comprehensive plan was adopted in 2025. I believe in 2024. Sorry, there's a lot of dates with a lot of documents. 2024. I believe in November, December. But in essence, the comprehensive plan is the guiding document for land use, parks and recreation, city facilities, and a number of other things that is made in part with public input to guide how the city is going to develop to a certain period of time. This is typically a state requirement across the country, and that's what the comprehensive plan is. And the reason we are reflecting on the comprehensive plan today is because the use by permit approval criteria specifically asks, does this use mesh well with the goals, objectives, and various other items within the comprehensive plan?
Okay. So I see the core principles and the goals and objectives, and then we have the 4 core principles, which I stated earlier. Let me ask how the comp plan was, how did it come about? I read in the comp plan that we had 36,300 data sets, a survey or some kind of a data set. And we took all that information, we made the comp plan, is that correct?
In essence, yes. In essence, yes. Public input from property owners, developers, other interested parties and stakeholders, as well as staff's professional opinion on how to form these maps and the text that goes into the plan.
Just to add on to that, in terms of the comprehensive plan, it was a multi-year project. We did have a professional land planning consultant that was on board. It started about the time of the pandemic, and so that's why it stretched out for several years, because it was difficult to do the outreach initially. And as you pointed out, there was many points of contact with the public, input gathering, and lots of work between staff and the consultant to come up with the character areas, the economic development framework map, the goals, and the objectives. And then it was ultimately reviewed and recommended by the Planning Commission and adopted by City Council in November of 2024.
Okay, thank you. I just want to know, I searched for car wash in the comp plan and nothing came up. I searched for water and I got the core principle of water resources. So obviously water resources is a core principle for the public. If 36,300 data sets came in over a 4-year process, that this is important to Commerce City residents. Sustainability, water resources, natural areas. And I too, like Councilmember Poe, or Councilmember Fry, sorry, excuse me, I was wondering what changed. And the only thing I saw that changed on the site plan was, I guess, a patio that's about, I don't know, 10, 15 feet diameter in a sidewalk. So I didn't see much change, but I know I see it changed to satisfy the requirement of the second requirement, which they only needed one. I'm just wondering how this changed from does not meet criteria, and sustainability was, I believe, in the original, to driving it now is economics. And I didn't hear anything about sustainability in the presentation. I guess that's a statement, but if you'd like to add into that, feel free.
Yeah, of course. I'm thinking 1 second.
Okay.
Nathan, Mike can answer.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the question. I think it might be worth talking to the applicant about water usage that really, I believe it's been shown, and the applicant can probably address this, that going through a car wash actually saves water as opposed to washing your own car. And the savings is pretty significant. So I think with some of that information, we've revised our opinion to say that this is a more sustainable land use than, there are some sustainability advantages to having a car wash facility that's near residential development in order to save water in the long run, rather than having residents pull out the hose, and I've done it before, water runs down the street. But that is probably a good question for the applicant to address.
Okay, well, we'll move that along to the applicant. Let's, can we finish with the board? I don't want to take up everybody else's time, but I definitely have more questions or
Yeah, Board Member
concerns.
Poe has a question for staff before we go to the applicant.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As far as this Argonne Street, is that constructed now, or is that going to be part of this development?
It is a part of a separate PUD development permit that's under review currently. And Argonne Street, or the PUD development permit for this car wash would not be approved until the plat and PUD development permit for the greater Settlers Crossing planning area is approved.
Okay, so Argonne will, as part of that PD, it will be extended all the way down between,
I believe it runs to about where my cursor is at.
okay.
And then includes, I also think 97th, but I'm not the planner on that. But the applicant can confirm when it's their time to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there was adequate access to the site. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And I have a question, Nathan. Maybe it's better for the applicant, but I'll just check with you first. But on that south end where the sidewalk will be created, it looks like that's the exit from vehicles. Is there a barrier between that sidewalk and where cars will be exiting to keep pedestrians safe from that distance? Do you know? And I could always wait for the applicant if you're unsure.
I believe the applicant will need to address that. It does not look like there is a railing there, but that can certainly be added. And I'm sure the applicants would be willing to add that. But again, I think that's more of an applicant question.
Great, thank you. Do we have any more questions for staff board? Ready for the applicant?
Sure.
Okay, Board Member Bryway?
First, a clarification. This is a use case and not a variance request. For the record, can you please denote the difference between the variance and the use case? Specifically, traditionally in variances, we're looking just at the property, not the makeup of the neighborhood, and it's property specific. I just want to clarify for the board and for my own deliberation about that distinction, please.
Yeah, of course. That is correct. This is a use by permit, which is different than a variance. A variance is in essence a deviation from a bulk standard such as a setback, minimum building height, floor area ratio, anything with a number that affects where a building or other structures are placed on a site typically. A use by permit is a special consideration for a certain land use on a site, and in essence, can you repeat more of your question regarding the use by permit? I just...
the question I want to clarify for us as a board is variances, we are only looking at the property because you've mentioned multiple times during the applicant presentation yours about the whole site plan. Typically, our board does not look at that, and I want to make sure it's very clear for us, the public, and our deliberation once this hearing is closed, that we have a very clear understanding.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So with a use by permit, not only is staff and the board considering the land use on the particular site, but the criteria also points to suitable given the characteristics of the general area and if service can occur to that site. And as a part of that, we also look at the greater context for where the land use is proposed.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that was very clear to us because we don't get land use, special use cases at this board meeting quite often.
Certainly.
I did want to, for the record, Board Member Volopkis, you asked a question to Mr. Chavez regarding water planning goals, and you mentioned data sets. I do not see that in our application. And for the record, because I don't see it, I don't want information to be asked during a hearing that the rest of us are not privy to. So if you can please clarify what that was relating to.
Sure, yeah, the source information came from the comp plan itself, I believe, in the first 10 pages on how the comp plan came about.
In Board Member Fryway, the initial staff report contained a hyperlink to the comprehensive plan.
Oh, okay.
And I can pull that up too if you all would like.
If you could, I may be a younger person, but I really hate digital packets.
I
like
believe
paper
it's on
packets.
page
So I just-
18.
All right, I just
Nathan,
want to be able
Mr.
to see
Chavez.
it for the record.
Page 18, community outreach.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we're all aware of that during the hearing process.
Is this what you're referring to, Board Member Voltakis, this total points of overall engagement?
That's correct. As I read it, 36,300, and I believe it was data sets. I don't know how that, maybe says there are points. Can use either one. We'll just say 36,300. I've seen transportation plans get 2,000, 2,500, and they've become transportation plans, and I think 36,300's. It's quite a bit in 4 years' time. So there's a lot of information here. Were you done, Councilmember? Okay.
I just, because you brought it up and it wasn't in the packet, I just want to make sure during the learning phase of our meeting that it is very clear for the public and our colleagues that it's out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chair, can I continue with a couple of questions?
Yes, please do.
Okay. I was just wondering, can this use be conditioned? Or once it's granted, is that a permanent, will it be there for in perpetuity?
Well, use by permits are very unique to Commerce City. It's only something that is allowed currently by the Board of Adjustment. We have a separate process called a conditional use permit that has to go to Planning Commission and City Council. And in that case, the council can impose specific conditions related to mitigating the impacts of that conditional use. I do feel that it would be appropriate if you have specific conditions to place on this use related to the mitigation of its impacts, but those would have to be agreeable by the applicant. And so I would ask that you would run that by them.
So the answer is yes, either by the City Council or the Board of Adjustment?
Again, two different processes.
Understand.
Either the conditional use permit or the use by permit. So, but they're somewhat similar in that it's not a use by right. It's a use that needs a special review. And in this case, the review happens by the Board of Adjustment.
Okay. Thank you. No more further questions at this time.
Thank you. Any additional questions for staff before we move to the applicant? Okay, great. And I believe there are some questions for the applicant, so if you'd like to approach. Thank you. Thank you. And board, we want to start off with questions. Did you have questions for the applicant? Board
Sure.
Member
I think the
White?
outstanding question was about the water sustainability issue that the director, Sutherland, I believe, said that there was some kind of sustainability. I would agree, this is an efficient way to wash your car. However, we'll see what you have to say.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And I just want to pull up the site plan again. Just want to start off by saying that not all 3 lanes on this site plan are wet washes, by the way. So just the far left lane is a wet wash, the other 2 are dry detailing. So not 3 big wet washes. But from a water conservation standpoint, you know, cobblestone is very prevalent across the West, which is obviously water is gold. And so, you know, we've created procedures as well as created and produced the reclaim system. It's actually called Sunny's Reclaim System. And so we take the water that is washed essentially from the car. It settles into 3 tanks slowly to settle out the solids. We'll suck that water back into our building. We'll spin it clean, or as clean as we can. And then we typically use that throughout different portions of the wash, not necessarily like to clean your car at the end, but to like underwash your car, so to speak. And so a lot of what goes into this water conservation is how these belts are ultimately run, the speed of them. And you know, the caveat is being able to run them at the appropriate speed while still giving the customer what they want, and that is a clean car. And that is what the cobblestone staple is a clean car. And so, you know, we've mastered those processes, and this being a new site and a new prototype in the area, we obviously you know, we can't promise anything, but with it being new build, you know, we're hoping to be much more efficient than even the 30% of each wash. So we'll reuse on average, and this is a nationwide average, we're looking to be much higher here. A 30% water of each wash is recycled water. And so we're hyper aware of water usage, especially in the West. You know, I'm from Colorado. I understand that water is gold. We've actually we've implemented what they call a Keonsae meter on all of our new locations, and that will go on this location. And that actually monitors the water flow in and out of our building. And so say we have a pipe leak or something, immediately we'll get a notification for that. We'll go in and fix it, because a lot of times water is wasted on stuff in the back end, not even during the wash. It's in the back room when a pipe breaks or the chemical mixing is incorrect. Cobblestone has really honed that in, and with these Keonsae meters, you know, we're hypersensitive. And not to mention, as I mentioned earlier, South Adams County, you know, their hired engineer looked into this from a numbers standpoint and ultimately determined that, you know, there is capacity and there won't be any impact. So that's our pitch on water. And, you know, we obviously understand that this year is a unique year, even outside of Colorado always being dry. So, you know, we're open to, you know, any conditions that you would like to speak about as well on that side, and yeah, open to conversation.
Okay, thank you. I have another question while you're standing up there. What happens to all the dirty water? So do you filter it? And then what happens to that waste or to filter the reclaimed water? It filters, what do you put it in a 55-gallon drum? I'm talking about all the mag chloride from the roads and everything else. What happens to that kind of pollution? Does it go into the water table, the ground, down the drain? Where's it go?
No, it doesn't go into the water table. As it's collected, it'll sit there, and then those tanks get cleaned out actually as protocol. So all of those tanks that settle, you know, the water that can be sucked back in will. The water that can go to the discharge will go to the discharge. As for the real gunky stuff, though, that's in the tanks, and we as the owner will clean that out. Our engineer, yeah.
Hi,
Okay.
Krista Houchins with K2 Civil. Just adding to that, he described the tanks, and then there's also usually a sand oil interceptor that most places use as well, that again will collect that, and then it does all outfall to the sanitary sewer.
Is that monitored by your
Same
industry,
group.
or is that monitored by the water department? Who monitors the discharge of the water to say it's an acceptable level?
I'm not sure if South Adams monitors it at all, but it's a function of the car wash, because again, it'll back up and it'll be dirty water for the car wash, so they're constantly maintaining it and cleaning it out for their services.
So is it standard operating procedure for a car wash just to look at it and say, yeah, it looks clean, it's going
Yeah,
down the
I don't
drain?
know, Kelton, if you know the maintenance schedule, but they,
And just staff information, SACWest does monitor outflows and will, if there is a problem with a sand oil interceptor, they are able to know and pinpoint where the problem comes from.
Okay, and that would be a sand and oil, or a sand interceptor would be something in a gas station too,
That's correct.
Okay, all right, so that's the standard operating procedure. Okay, anybody else? I don't want to take all the time.
I had a quick question while we're talking about water. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but I was just curious because it was mentioned with hand washes. So I know it was brought up about the car wash on 104th, that's a self-wash. And that you've also mentioned that each car is about 20 gallons per wash. Do you know by chance the comparison on the difference between what, is being used per car at those places compared to an auto?
I wish I could speak, and
Okay.
I can't put that on the record.
No worries.
I do know that we're much more hypersensitive to the water situation, though.
Okay, great, thank you. Board Member Frywhite, you have a question?
Thank you. While we're talking about water, I did have a question. So our criteria, specifically Section B and 1, talks about the meeting our plans. And I just wanted to ask your question, how your facility for this use meets our goal 2.1, which was noted in here, and that is,
Take me there.
if you can show that for me, thank you. And goal 7, within the analysis, it noted that there would be 14 RUs, or estimated residential equivalent unit, which is how much water. So that's about 14 homes that your place would be utilizing. And it has been noted that there are multiple car washes currently in our community. I was wondering why if you could please go into how you guys do meet that objective of our environmental goals as a community, specifically with the drought conditions. We are now at like level 2, I think that was publicly noticed for a number of communities, and how this overall meets that goal
Yeah.
for using so much.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, this Sunny's reclaim system, and this is the most efficient system in the market. We've done, hundreds of car washes across the country, and prior to running the Sunny's system, it wasn't nearly as successful as we've had with this Sunny system. So that's why we're as confident as we can be is in, being as much as water conservative as possible for this use. And so that's why we feel, we meet these criterias, and with there being other uses of the type in the area now, anyway, that is until, the cobblestone would come in and ultimately, we believe, take those customers because of the product that we are providing. This isn't just an express car wash. This is a product that, hasn't been seen in Colorado fully, and we believe will be very, very successful. We're talking about going and getting your car washed and getting it detailed within like 15 minutes. So you go, you wash your car, you flip around, you get out of your car goes on the dry belt. There's 8 employees, 4 and 4 on each side. They're washing your windows, they're vacuuming, they're wiping your dash down. Meanwhile, you're on the side getting a refreshment, your car's getting detailed. 5 minutes go by, you step back in your car and you drive out. This isn't a ho-hum car wash we're talking about here. This is a full Saturday activity for someone to come do with their family. It's a community staple, really. So and with that being said, there's also, multiple residential dwellings in the area. with very limited commercial services. And so, Cobblestone does expansive market research on their sites before we even think about selecting one. And given the amount of rooftops in this area and lack of services, we feel that this is more than meets the criteria for that.
Chair, I do have a follow-up question, if I may. Okay. So you kind of led into my next question there, so I do appreciate that. It makes it quite convenient. So another goal that was noted in the analysis in our comp plan and goals is the character use. So goal 1.1 is provide neighborhood level services within residential areas. 2.4 talks about designing an economy that creates a sense of community. Because this what the community has said is we want a kind of downtown feel that's walkable and which to me is not car centric. So having another car wash is kind of counterintuitive to that. But you did mention that there's something uniquely different about yours. And if you can please talk about what is so uniquely different that you're not like all these others that build that sense of community, because you mentioned, it's a weekend event, and I don't think generally I do not think about going to a car wash as a weekend getaway with my family. I think of Vestas Park, somewhere that has a sense of community if I'm going to go visit somewhere. So if you can just elaborate a little bit more on that for that particular section. Thank you.
I think old car collectors would disagree. They would like to go.
I'm not a car collector.
I know, but there might be some people in the community that are. This is an experience that we're offering. This isn't just a wet wash, get out of your car and do it yourself. We offer a membership as well that will serve the community, make it a very accessible amenity for the neighbors in the area. And I understand that there's a desire to have the community feel, and I'll let Daniel speak a little bit more on this, but you're talking about 30 acres of commercial land over there. You can't do knick-knack shops for 30 acres. And we feel that since Tower Road carries a heavy traffic count, an automotive use is more than appropriate.
Yeah, and just to elaborate on that, I mean, not only do we have, the 30-acre commercial site there and plan to have, many more pedestrian-centric, friendly uses within that, but also the connections that we mentioned on the pedestrian connectivity plan. But also there's, 30 acres of commercial on every corner at that particular intersection, the same at 104th and Tower, the same at 120th and Tower, the same at E470, and 104th, E470, 96th. So there's a tremendous amount of commercial opportunity, which we are looking to take advantage of. But, as it relates to, other car washes in the community and not necessarily seeing a need, the closest car wash, at least today, is 2 miles away. And I've had a number of residents, tell me that, they would prefer to not have to drive, 2 miles to get their car washed, and that they would really love this facility. I know, it seems kind of strange to say that it would be like a weekend activity, but, and I know, my personal experience probably doesn't matter to you all, but that's what me and my dad did on the weekends. That's how we spent time together. That's how we bonded. That was, quite literally one of the only things that we bonded over was cars and washing them. But also wanted to touch on a couple other things really quickly that I heard. Board Member Valtakis talked about, some of the goals in the comp plan, and one of those being economic development. I think it's important to note that economic development has strongly supported this application, from the beginning, even, through that first recommendation. I think they, made it known to staff that they were always supportive of this. And Nathan, I don't know if it's possible to bring up, I think they may have even included something in this slideshow. But that's, one of the major goals in the comp plan. It's also one of the major goals for the city as a whole, economic development, safety, and there was 2 others that I can't remember. But, I think the fact that economic development is highly supportive of this, speaks to that. And also the community need. Like I said, I mean, I've heard from a number of residents that they would love to have this here and not have to drive 2 miles. And, you know, there may be an application in the works, but there's no guarantee, you know, that that actually moves forward. One of the other things I wanted to touch on really quick, water, we've kind of, you know, explained that, you know, pretty extensively. I would just say that, you know, again, this uses less water than otherwise would be used if you were to wash it at home. So, you know, I think it does provide a net benefit there. And then if we could pull up just the overall site plan. I wanted to, I know Board Member Poe had talked about what infrastructure. Can you do the overall? So it will be Argonne coming south from Settlers Lane, 97th making that connection to Tower Road, and then Argonne will extend, yeah, basically right there. So just wanted to make that clear that all of that infrastructure will get built as a part of this project, but is, you know, somewhat conditioned upon, you know, having this use to make everything else viable. And I don't know if there was any other questions for me specifically, but happy to answer them.
I don't know if my question will be exactly for this gentleman, but, and it may have been partially answered. It sounds like perhaps 30% of the water will be recycled. Is that what I heard?
I believe that's correct, yes.
And is all the water sent through the process and only 30% can be reused?
I'll let him answer.
Yeah, let the other guy do it.
And again, that 30% is a very rough, you know, average from nationwide. As I mentioned, the belt speed, the way that it is operated has a lot to do with that. But yes, typically about 30% of every wash that is, like, so say a car goes through, 30% of that water that washed that car was recycled from previous.
Okay, so 100% of the waters run through the process. You mentioned a cyclone or a spinning centrifuge type thing.
Yes, sir. Cyclone.
So all the water's going to go through there, and 30% of the water, or maybe a little more, gets reused, and the rest goes back, I guess, to South Adams County. So my question is, when you're centrifuging that water, and you got your settling tanks and all these processes which are removing these environmental contaminants, one could only imagine what's getting washed off these cars, oil, tar, whatever stuff like that. What becomes of that stuff? That bad stuff that you've got left over, what are you gonna do with that?
That gets collected by the sand oil collector.
Them guys that pump your sand tanks won't take that oil. Don't try and tell me that, because I know they won't. The guys that pump the sand traps do not take oil and grease. They do not. So what are you guys going to do with that oil and grease that the sand trap pumping guys aren't going to continually take?
The folks that pump those out, it's not separate, like the oil and the sand's not separate. It's all in that tank. They take their vacuum hose down there and clean out the whole tank.
I know how they do it.
Has the oil in there as well.
So you're sending that stuff off to these third-party guys that are doing who knows what with it?
Yeah, the third-party guys, the professionals that are licensed to deal with that type of stuff.
They're taking the oil and the contaminated fluids and all that.
They go through the reclaim system and the sand oil interceptor. Yep.
I think it's important to note that, like, when you wash any car, you know, you're gonna have oil and grease that gets washed off the car. If it's done at home, that water will likely end up in the water table. Whereas if you've got a car wash where it's collected, at least it's disposed of in some manner. You know, if you're just washing in your driveway, that oil, that grease, that ends up
It's certainly better than that, yes.
permeated. Yeah.
Okay, my just curious as to what was happening. That apparently it's going in the sand trap, and whoever pumps your sand traps takes it away. So the other question I have may go to staff, probably to Nathan. These residents that surround this area, can they wash their cars at home? Or do they have an HOA that says, we don't like clean cars and we don't want you doing that in your yard? Can the people who surround that area generally wash cars at their house?
So I can answer that. I'm actually on the
Thank you.
HOA board, and yes, they can.
They can wash cars at their house?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. That's it.
I had a question for you, Kevin. I was just curious, you mentioned the detailing, so I imagine families have to get out during that detailing. Is there a place inside for them to be
Yeah.
when?
Yeah, there's a, so on the, if, can we pull the site plan? You can't really tell here. But yeah, so the idea is you'll enter from the south there, or I'm sorry, from the north there. You'll get out of your car, and on the, what would be the west side of the two dry belt tunnels where you see your two doors at the bottom. Can you point to the bottom there? Yep, right there. So those are your two pedestrian doors. And so if you ran two parallel lines
Okay.
of that, that's like a pedestrian alley that has vending machines, restrooms, seating areas, TVs. Really, it's like I said, it's about 5 minutes. So you're talking maybe grab a snack or whatever, and your car's done. And they're saying, you know, next car up, get in and let's go. But yeah, there's a place for pedestrians to hang out right there.
Inside, okay. And then I'll have one more question. I believe our board members have some more questions as well. I had asked previously that exit where cars are coming out, where the sidewalk will be built, is there a barrier or something that will keep pedestrians safe with cars exiting?
Absolutely, we can work with staff and engineering. That's something that we've done on other sites. Not a problem at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And Board Member Fry White, did you have a question? No? Okay.
I just wanted to add really quickly, you know, your question about, you know, pedestrian areas. You know, I know it was said that the gathering area was a small addition, but, you know, I respectfully disagree, kind of for the reason why I was explaining earlier. Like, you know, this was something me and my dad kind of bonded over, and we did on a Saturday or Sunday. And, you know, like, if that was available at where we were, you know, washing our cars, you know, we would utilize that as like a lunch break area. So I don't think it's, you know, even though it's car-centric, you know, I think it is very usable and is something that, like, I would have used personally. I also want to say that, you know, Tower and 96, you know, we would all like it to be a walkable community. And we're going to have, you know, through that pedestrian gathering and connectivity plan that we put together, you know, walkable within inside the community. But the reality is you're surrounded by a major arterial, and a major highway. And so, you know, it's going to be, you know, it'll be walkable within inside the community, but, you know, it's still a car-centric area, if that makes sense. We're still in a suburban area.
Thank you. And Board, do we have any additional questions? Board Member Baltakis? Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on Member Leffel's questions about the community. I have a letter from I believe it's Elise Cusick, who lives in Settlers Village, who has some concerns about the proximity to the park, traffic and safety impacts, noise in the neighborhood, disruptions, and lack of clear community benefits. I was just wondering if the applicant would like to address all of them or four of them, or?
I can address all of those.
Sure.
Yeah, from a distance standpoint, as I mentioned earlier, it's 1,000 feet from our building to the first residential dwelling. We've done car washes right up against residential buildings, and we've had to do additional site modifications to allow for, you know, ultimately the code is set for a decibel limit at the residential lot line.
Okay.
We will do whatever that takes. It's not going to take anything here because we're so far away. But as a part of that review, as a part of our design review, that will be reviewed.
Okay.
And if, you know, any modifications are required in a part of that, you know, we've done that across the country with no issue. As for traffic, we have a compliance letter with the master development on that saying that, you know, there will be no impact. There are multiple entrance spots, not just on Tower, but you can go off of Argonne or you can come off of East 96 when it's fully built out. So that should have very, very limited impact to the neighbors. And then what was the last note?
We had noise and neighborhood disruption, which I believe you covered the noise. Neighborhood disruption, I think, was something. She said noise from vacuums, machinery, frequent vehicle movements could significantly disrupt what is currently a quiet residential neighborhood. Traffic and safety impacts and proximity to neighborhood park.
Yeah.
And lack of a clear community benefit. Now, I don't ask you to address that one.
I mean, I
because
can.
I think, okay,
This
go ahead.
will provide more jobs to the city of Commerce City than a normal car wash. As I
Okay.
mentioned, you know, at any given time, there could be 15 employees in the dry utility belt, given the volume that we have going.
Are those full-time employees or part-time
Those are
employees?
full-time.
Full-time?
And so this,
Do they receive benefits with your company?
they do.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is a, this is a very, very beneficial tax-creating user for you guys.
Okay. Nathan, do we have a decibel limit in the code? Or planning?
There are performance standards per our land development code, and I'd have to look at them a little further. And I don't have an answer for you right now. I believe there is a noise ordinance generally. But if I can recall correctly, it's in the municipal code, which as a planners we don't look at too much, and I believe certain businesses are exempt, or there's a certain time.
Is this one of them that will be exempt?
Give me one moment, and let me double check that.
Okay, we'll come back to that question.
And while he's doing that, I just wanted to say really quickly, I know you were pointing out, some of the issues with the letter of opposition, and, I think we've addressed how we think we mitigate those. But I think it's also important to remember that, there was 4 letters submitted, 3 of which were supportive. So, we, out of the people who, chose to respond, we did hear, a pretty positive recommendation from the neighborhood. I think we may hear from some residents here tonight, maybe in opposition. I don't believe that they're members of the Settlers Crossing community, but we did, get 3 out of 4 from the community.
Okay. Can I
do want
keep the floor, or? Oh, go ahead,
Board Member
Councilmember.
Frylight?
Thank you. I do want to clarify, we keep talking about 4 letters, and in the packet, I have one from Elise Kusick,
That's the one I just read about.
and there's one from Trimmer, so there are 2 in opposition.
Trimmer presented a letter that we received when we got here that said he can support the
Oh,
site.
it changed? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm like,
I
I'm
believe
not
there were
following
4 in the
this.
packet. I think
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to understand that. Thank you.
Mr. Chavez might be able to address that, but originally it was 2 to 2, and then one of them, unbeknownst to us, actually found out when we went to the door, changed from the opposition to the
Thank you. Any additional questions while we wait for Mr. Chavez? Or are you ready?
Yes, and I'll just read this to you from the Muni Code. It's section 6-2011, unreasonable noise. Any sound of such level and duration as to be or tend to be injurious to human health or welfare, or that would unreasonably interfere with the enjoyment of life or property is deemed unreasonable. City agents are authorized to make a prima facie determination as to whether a noise is unreasonable, which determination may be based upon, but need not be limited to a consideration of the following factors: the time of day, the size of any gathering or persons creating or contributing to the noise, the neighborhood or area in which the noise is occurring, the presence or absence of noise amplification equipment, and any other factors tending to show the magnitude and/or disruptive effect of the noise.
Okay, thanks,
Can I touch
Nathan.
on noise just one second?
I just want to make something real quick. Thanks for pulling it up. So there is not a decibel limit. It's just we're going to go out and listen to it, and if it works for the community, if it's not doesn't hurt the community, it's fine. It's open-ended, basically.
In essence, yes. In essence, yes. There's also an exemption that states any activity that has been authorized by the city through the zoning process with a specific condition authorizing the exemption or variance from the requirements of the section. And I'll leave it up to the applicant to kind of discuss more on how much noise their car wash would create.
Well, let me just throw out, I did do some research because I do pass a couple cobblestones daily. And I did manage to get out and use my cell phone to measure the decibel limit. And I went to the property line, it measured 94. I went probably halfway back from the property line to the quick stop on 120th there, and it was 82. So I just wanted to put that in the record and gives you an idea. I'm not a sound engineer. What does that mean? It's 12 decibels lower off the property line. So if you want to address that, go ahead, sir.
So first off, the loudest portion of our site is typically our dryers, obviously. And so our dryers are actually facing south away from and down the corridor, down Tower Road corridor. And I can't promise anything, but it's very likely that the ambient sound level that comes from Tower, just from the cars, it's probably about 80, if I were to bet. So if that's a condition that the board wants to see, we'd be more than happy to do a sound study, and give you guys that. As I said, this is obviously something that we deal with a lot. And so Sunny's, the same company that does the reclaim system, they do blower designs. They have different designs, for, different levels of sites that can be found. So this is a conversation that, we're open to, and that we have with a lot of AHJs.
I had a question really quick. What are the hours of operation? Because I imagine this isn't a 24-hour place where the sound's going to be on all night.
Yeah, typically we go like 7 to 8, and like in the summers we'll go from 7 till sunset, so about 9.
Okay.
But if there's the parameters of whatever working sound hours are within Commerce City's set, we will always abide by.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a couple more. I think this one's more directed towards staff and maybe legal. By allowing this use, is that diminishing the comp plan, the integrity in the comp plan? Are we opening up auto service now for this development by allowing this use? So could a tire shop go in, repair shop, other automotive service type businesses?
So each application that comes in, I guess to answer your question directly, this would not necessarily open up the city to having more auto-centric uses through the use by permit process. The underlying, or the PUD zone document determines what the land uses are, or can or can't be at this site. And I could pull up the Settlers Crossing PUD, but it may very well be that a tire shop is a use by right here or is a use by permit. But certainly each application is taken and looked at individually as well as in the general context. But if, let's say, in a few months we see a tire shop come in, staff would look at that in the lens of the PUD zone document, and then against any approval criteria that may or may not be required.
Just wanted to reiterate, this is a permitted use in the PUD document, albeit, with a special use permit requirement. And although I'm not sure, and I'd have to look at the comp plan to see if it's listed specifically, if I understand correctly, not all of the uses are listed within the comp plan that would be allowed within these certain areas. The new land development code does specifically call out a car wash, granted with, the special use permit, but it is listed in the new land development code, which came subsequent to the comp plan and was based on the comp plan.
I think we're just evaluating the comp plan here, not the land development code. Is that correct?
The criteria actually comes from the land development.
Right.
The criteria for use by permits comes from the land development code. And one of those review criteria addresses the consistency with the comp plan, as Mr. Chavez showed you in
Okay.
his slides.
The comp plan doesn't say car wash. It doesn't say tire shop. It says auto services, and it says it in general commercial.
So, but the comprehensive plan is a general guiding document. It's not a regulation that we measure against. That's why you're not going to find car washes specifically listed in the comprehensive plan. Those are in the regulations per se.
Right. So, Nathan, the answer is each case is judged by its individual merits?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No more.
Great, thank you. Board Member Leffel, you have a question?
It's more of a comment to Aaron's question regarding noise. You could make an awful lot of noise here in Commerce City, and there's nothing that can really be done about it because you have to have somebody with a certified decibel meter that's been trained to use the decibel meter come to the noise at the time it's occurring and witness it. Okay, that would be a police officer, which as far as I know, we have none trained with the decibel meters, nor do we have any certified decibel meters either. So these guys could make all the noise they want, and there's not much going to be done about it. We have vague standards of decibel standards, which they have not been able to enforce because, as he pointed out, the ambient noise already exceeds the standard in many of these areas, and probably the case where the car wash is proposed as well. The ambient noise will actually exceed the standard that was set. So it's impossible to measure his noise. So I just wanted to comment that these guys can make about all the noise they want, and nobody's going to care about it.
Because Tower Road is ultimately going to create the bulk of it, yeah.
You'll be beyond with Tower Road. The noise will there.
I can't promise. We can get someone who is a licensed professional who knows how to run a decibel meter out there, and we can get that done for you.
This is a problem we've found when we've had noise complaints over umpteen years, is it's hard to really do anything about it. And a lot of the noises occur, a guy pulls in there with his blasting stereo, you can hear it from 3 miles away. But by the time you get somebody over there to do something about it, guess what? He's already gone. So there's really very little control over the noise.
I would like to reiterate
in
that
this.
we're over 1,000 feet away from residents.
Yeah, I think people at their houses probably would have difficulty hearing it over the ambient noise.
Board member Leffel, do you?
And even if they do try to call in a complaint, well, good luck with that. That's all.
Board members, if I may, the landscape plan or the most recent update, this will be updated with the new sidewalk. There are trees on the eastern side along Argonne Street, which will help damper and hinder some of the noise. And then as the rest of the planning area is developed and built out, there will be additional buildings and landscaping to help dampen and soften some of that noise that does come from this site toward the residential.
Thank you. Any
Okay,
other
just one last.
Go ahead.
I guess what gets me on this case is that the planning department has done a complete opposite flip from April 14th to May 12th.
Chair, we're not in deliberations at this point. You haven't opened the public hearing.
I was just going to,
Do you have a question for staff?
yeah, I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Why that flip? I think we addressed some of that. And why the complete flip? That's my question.
Of course.
Nathan?
Yeah, so I touched on this a little earlier. Staff worked and sat down and met with the applicant a number of times. And when looking at the proposed improvements to the site plan, as well as better understanding the applicant's argument on how the use by permit meets the approval criteria, staff weighed both the portions of the approval criteria that were in conflict with the argument with the approval criteria where it met, and found that the argument for, or how all the approved criteria is met, ultimately outweighs the argument against supporting the use by permit.
And if I might add, I know it seems kind of like a minor change. Again, I tend to disagree. I think, although it seems minor, they're actually bigger. But also, the pedestrian gathering plan that shows the connectivity and how, the pedestrians will be able to connect to Tower, to Settlers Lane, to 96, to all the neighborhoods, was not a part of the original, package that was being looked at. And so, that's a really, really substantial change. And I think, and that's partially, our fault is, looking at the site in a vacuum, I think is, not the way to look at it. You have to look at it in the bigger context. And we had not provided that initially. So again, that's my fault. But, this is a major, incredibly major change.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Nope. Okay, great, thank you. All right, do we have any members of the public who wish to provide comments on these cases? If you could please approach and state your name and address.
Good evening, board members. My name is Christy Douglas. I live in Ward 4. I am so glad that I'm here tonight. Just listening to this, I have notes that are all over the place. One of the things that I heard the applicant say that caught my attention was they're looking to take advantage. And they are. I can tell you, yes, we waited for commercial development in that area for, well, the 22 years that I've been here, and I was promised that when I moved in that would happen. But what the developers have done is to held out. They've held out on us. And so now we're desperate for anything. And whatever comes by, we're going to jump at it. No. I'm asking for your denial as originally recommended by the staff. The flip caught my attention, and just because they've made it more pedestrian friendly, I can tell you, they're not opening a public bath. This is not for people, this is for cars. Also, the 1,000 foot mark was mentioned several times by the applicant. We looked it up, and the houses are 469 feet, not 1,000 feet. So again, misinformation that is being brought forward by the applicant. To me, their pitch is a stretch beyond my comprehension. I want you to know that, well, most of you know that I did serve on council for 4 years. And I can tell you I got there because I was active in the community. And I also feel like I continue to have the pulse of the community in my heart. And I can tell you, I know people who live in the area of the car wash on 120th, and they hate it. They hate the noise, they hate the lights, they hate everything, all the traffic that goes with it. They hate having it in their neighborhood. I know that the Turnberry people came forward when that one was brought forward, and they did not want it. So this is not something that's going to contribute positively to our community in any way. I'm used to having 3 minutes, and I see that my clock is still going. So I have a few minutes more, unless, is it public comment limited to 3 minutes right now?
You've got 2 minutes and about 50 seconds left.
Okay, all right. So, and then you see things on social media about what people want in the communities in the north. And they don't want more convenience stores, car washes, gas stations, daycare centers. We have daycare centers that are closing now. We have plenty of car washes the way it is. And so I don't see how this is a positive contribution to what the people want. They heard that there was a McDonald's coming in across the street, and everybody's going, we already have all these McDonald's. Why are we getting another McDonald's? So serve the community. You're on the Board of Adjustments, yes, but I am asking that you consider a denial for this special use permit. They wouldn't be coming before you if it wasn't asking for a waiver of some type, because if they could do it, then they would just be going ahead to do it. So, oh, and then I wanted to mention the fact that one of the letter writers who had opposed this to begin with, his address was included. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get a knock on his door by somebody to have a persuasive talk with him. I think you should probably consider that too. So I'm not going to take up much more time. I think I've made my points here, but yeah, I would ask that you could consider this as a denial. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public who wish to provide comments on this case? Okay, you can please approach. If you can state your name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Kiefer. I do live in Ward 4. I do serve on the Commerce City Planning Commission, as well as I'm the president of North Range Metro District 1, which is immediately adjacent to this property with about 2,048 homes. I should make it clear that I'm speaking personally. It has nothing to do with any positions I do have within the city at all. This evening, I'd like to talk about the car wash and how special use should be denied. This is I'm not trying to say it shouldn't be commercial. It absolutely is commercial, and it should continue to be that way. But the issue is whether the specific car wash fits the specific location. They're asking for an extraordinary exemption to the suggested plant use for the area because it's used by permit that they have to have for the auto washing facility. It means it's discretionary and entirely your purview, and the applicant must prove the use is appropriate. I don't believe that they've done that. I've listened this evening. I've read the comments. I've looked at the packet beforehand. I don't see how that's applicable. The demand isn't there for it. There's another car wash roughly 0.7 miles away from there. I see it on a regular basis. It's not overly utilized. I drive past this area on a regular basis. It has a fair amount of traffic as it is. Adding additional traffic back and forth is going to put more strain on an area that we have very limited throughput on the road as it stands. The original staff report did say that the use was inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. As you've mentioned, like I said, ad nauseum at this point, that there seems to be a flip-flop, but no real great understanding as to why. Because the plan now calls for pedestrian-oriented, local serving commercial uses, such as food, drinks, salons, clinics, fresh food, entertainment, but it's a car wash, which is completely auto-oriented and not pedestrian-oriented whatsoever. A car wash is primarily vehicle queuing, wash tunnel equipment, vacuums, pay stations, cars entering and leaving the property quickly. The applicant's update does not change the underlying use. A sidewalk and a bench do not make this a community destination. The destination amenity package that has been presented is conceptual and subject to change and is not a final engineering. So optional amenities should not justify an approval. Staff says the project does not meet the proven community needs criteria under the B1. That was obviously changed, but I think it still stands. Then finally, there was a previous case that I listened to that talked about the water usage. It was for another auto wash, so I did purchase a meter. Then I ran on my hose. And my wife and I have the same model year everything vehicle, so I washed both ours several times over the course of a few months, and the average came to 7.4 gallons per wash. If you choose to use their 20 gallons per wash model with 30% reclaimed, that's 14 gallons, give or take, as I said, there wasn't a set limit. So it's over double what it is to wash it in my house. Additionally, when I wash my vehicle, I don't wash the underside of it, which is where most of the grease and everything like that is going to be accumulating from, entering our water system. As anyone washes at their home, that's going to be the same situation. So you're not going to have that mass amount of debris and whatnot going into our system. It's going to stay in your vehicle. It's not going to bother most people. The approval criteria for this, it includes impacts on noise, traffic, lighting, safety, neighborhood character, and the neighboring property impacts. The likely impacts are going to be vacuum noise, machinery noise, constant vehicle movement, queuing and congestion, pedestrian and child safety concerns, and incompatibility with nearby homes and park use. I can say with absolute certainty I speak to a lot of people in my neighborhood, which are very much, as I said, adjacent to that area. I'm not going to find anyone that's going to say they want this. It's almost a running joke at this point. The things that we approve in the area, such as the car washes, and it's been spoken several times, but we don't need more auto stores and car washes and fast food restaurants. That's not what people are looking for, and this would be a very exceptional approval, given that it's not a need and you don't have to do it. My main points here are the applicant is trying to make an auto-oriented car wash look like a pedestrian-oriented neighborhood amenity. The underlying use does not match the plan. The need has not been proven. The impacts have not been adequately resolved. For these reasons, I ask the board find that the applicant has not met the use by permit criteria and deny AU 25-0004. Thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public who would like to comment?
No,
we do
Chair.
not. Okay. Do we have anyone online virtually who would like to comment?
No, Chair.
Great, thank you. Okay. Does the applicant wish to respond to any of the public testimony?
So I'll let him go in a second, but just wanted to respond to a couple things. It was said that we've been holding out the commercial. And, you know, we've owned this property for 20 years, and we've been trying to develop this commercial property every single day of that 20 years. If you think owning raw, illiquid, you know, undeveloped ground is a good business plan for 20 years, it is not. We reached out to over approximately 108 different tenants, restaurants, grocers, you name it, and to a man, you know, almost all of them said, you know, we're looking for more traffic and more rooftops. Now, obviously, you know, this application has nothing to do with rooftops, but it will drive traffic, which will then incentivize some of the other users. In fact, some of the other users that we have under contract for phase one, you know, are really wanting this use because it will help provide visibility and traffic around their uses. It was also said, you know, that people don't want car washes up here. You know, I've talked to a number of residents. We've got 3 letters from residents, you know, within our community who do want it. I think it's, you know, unfortunately, usually people only speak out when they don't want something. I think that, you know, the fact that we had 3 out of 4 residents from our community speak in favor of it, you know, is actually like a pretty incredible positive response. I mean, usually you only hear stuff if it's negative. It was also said that, you know, we knocked on the person's door who, you know, was originally opposed to the project and now is a proponent. I'm happy to say on the record that I have had absolutely no contact with that person, either, you know, on the phone, via email, in person. I'll let Kelton speak to his interaction, but I'm fairly certain that there was also 0 interaction with that particular resident. So I think that's important. One of the other things I wanted to address, and then I'll let him address like the site-specific stuff, was the strain on traffic. You know, right now, like one of the residents I spoke to, you know, has to drive 2 miles to get to the car wash, whereas she could drive, you know, less than a quarter of a mile to go to this. So in a way, it'll actually reduce the strain on traffic and reduce people's trips that they would otherwise have had to take.
I'll be quick and just touch on everything that was said by the public. Just to touch on whether this area needs it or not. I wouldn't be here tonight if this area didn't need a car wash from a numbers standpoint. As I said, we run a very elaborate market analysis on all different levels, and our numbers state otherwise. There's residential dwellings here that need the services, and I'll leave it at that. As for this not being a pedestrian use, I'm pretty sure people drive cars. I would like to know where the pedestrians get their car washed. And if it is in their front yard, where is that sludge going? Where is that oil going? Where are those chemicals going? I promise you it's not being collected. It's going straight into the storm sewer, straight into your guys' facilities, and then it's your problem. So just something to think about right there. The city did review our traffic and our use within the traffic use of the overall development, and it was deemed to be a non-negative impact. This is not your typical car wash use as mentioned by the public. This is much, much more, as we've gone over many, many times. As for noise, majority of the loud machines that were referenced by the public are actually inside of our building. We run under a mezzanine design, which allows us to keep a lot of these, what they call vac producers, which is majority of the noise. It sucks your air, spins your air clean, sucks it back out. Those are inside of our building. And if the board would like to see a measurement from where our exit tunnel is to the first residential lot, I'd be more than happy to provide it. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this time, I will now close the public hearing for the, okay.
I just had one clarifying question before we close. The site plan that staff was provided is a concept plan, not a current plan that is being considered by the Planning Commission. Correct, it's just a thought.
Are you referring to the site plan?
The whole site plan. This one, yes. Is this currently going through the approval process, or is this a concept plan? Because they are distinguishing different. Maybe the applicant can please clarify, because I keep hearing both, and that is a very large distinction for our consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, and so I can kind of explain. So right now, The first phase is, this area along Tower Road, just south of Sattler's Lane, bounded on the east by Argonne. It consists of 5 lots. We're going through a PUD permit process, a plat, and a civil drawing process. So everything you see as it relates to that phase is fairly concrete. As it relates to everything outside of there, yes, it is conceptual at this time, and our goal would be to, preserve these pedestrian gathering areas, have this connectivity, and work with staff, as we move along into future phases. Now, some of the building layouts, could change, some of the building locations could change, and that may change, the pedestrian connectivity. But the fact remains that we are committed to having these pedestrian gathering areas, and connectivity, to the various uses, to Tower Road, Settlers Lane, 96, and all of that. So although it is conceptual, we are committed to, trying to adhere to this as strictly as we can. But again, buildings may move, and that may move, a sidewalk from the north end to a building to a south end, but we still, are committed to having that connectivity in the pedestrian gathering areas.
Thank you.
Board Member Leffel?
I wanted to get a clarification regarding a statement Ms. Douglas made. Is this or is it not 1,000 foot away from the nearest residence? I got one person saying they measured it, another guy making a claim. How far is it from the nearest residence? Who measured it?
We did.
You did?
Me and my engineers measured this, yes, from where our exit tunnel would be, where our noise would be, to the first residential lot.
So,
To which residential, I'm not going to speak to the public, but to which residential lot exactly is that one? Do you believe it's 400
So the
feet?
closest residential lot is, mine doesn't work. Yeah, right there. And so.
Ain't what it looks like in the picture.
We may be able to pull up a GIS and do it really quickly, but I think part of the difference may be is that they were measuring from the building, and maybe the residents were measuring from the lot line. But I know a comment was just made that it shows that distance on the site plan.
This can't happen.
Yes, but
Chair.
no, he asked me, and so we have it on
Christie.
the record. I also want you to know that people are notified
Point of
only
order.
within 500
Point of
feet.
order.
And so
Mrs.
those
Douglas?
people wouldn't have gotten notified.
Douglas?
if
Mrs.
they were
Douglas.
Only within 1,000.
Ms. Douglas, thank you.
I just want to say, I heard a comment was made that it shows the 469 on a site plan. There is no such dimension on any of the site plans we've shown, so I'm not sure exactly what that comment was about. But, I mean, we could probably just pull it up on GIS and use a measurement tool if we, really wanted to right now.
Oh, so the residents that received letters that are sent out within a 500-foot radius?
From the lot line. So from each edge of our lot lines is 500 feet around. So that's what I meant earlier, was that it's from our building, so which is a good 400 feet in, 500 feet in from the lot line. Does that make sense? So
Well, what you said certainly makes sense, but the standard and the way we've done it all along is from the property line, not someplace inside the property. They go from the edge.
from your notices,
Pardon me?
for your noise or for your notices?
What I'm trying to figure out is it or is it not 1,000 foot from the nearest residence? Because this little map on here, and he kind of pointed to a different area with that red thing. It looks like there's proposed houses. They may not be there today, but you've got filing number 1, filing number 2, filing number 3 that butt right up along the side there.
We understand, and we took a rough measurement from where our exit tunnel would be to that lot line over there.
So you're avoiding the question. The thing is, we measure from the property line, not somewhere within the property. We measure from the edge of the line. That's where they take
When
the
the
reading.
concern from the residents is noise, we're talking about where the noise comes from.
Chair, can I
So
speak?
if I could just offer,
please?
when we do noise ordinance violations, we actually measure at the property line of.
That's right.
Of the complaining party. We don't measure it from the property line of the.
The creator.
Location. We measure to where the property is of the person who's making the complaint that they've heard it.
Board Member Leffel,
And
I just want to point out because I live in this community. So I think there's two questions to your part. I just want to help clarify. The one you're asking about is for the sound. So the sound,
I'm not worried about the sound because I know there's no enforcement on the sound. What I'm worried about, and this is a physical thing that seems like could be measured pretty easily, is this site, and I'm talking from the perimeter of the site, not someplace within the site, from the perimeter of this property, what is the distance to the nearest, perhaps proposed house?
We didn't measure from that corner lot, we measured from our building, so I can't give you that answer, but we'd be happy to look it up for you right now, yes, sir. We didn't measure from the corner, we measured from our exit tunnel, which is typically what we do.
About 500.
Because those are the
And I-
concerns.
And I just wanted to clarify, so this is existing. You know, these would be the homes, you know, along Settlers Lane that are closest and are existing.
I don't see your pointer on the screen.
Maybe, who's got the big?
There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
Those are the ones that look like they're the closest, right there.
Yeah, so either those or maybe the ones on the other side of the park. So those would be the existing homes that are closest. Now, there could potentially be homes in planning area A. It's kind of where the number 4 is, that pedestrian gathering area. There's nothing planned there's no application for housing there yet.
It looks like the homes near number 3 are probably a bit closer than number 4 by quite a bit. And the park itself is even closer yet. I guess we don't care what happens at the park.
Well, I would say, you know, there's quite a, you know, you're going to have all this commercial area buffering the park, and, you know, it has always been, you know, a part of our PUD, the comp plan, that, you know, this area would be commercial. So you're always going to have commercial right up against the park and those residents, but it will, you know, buffer the site that we're talking about today.
Well, back to the original question, is it or isn't it 1,000 foot from that nearest property line of the nearest house?
I haven't measured myself, so
Nobody's measured it, so we're just saying that.
Well, again, if we pull up a GIS map, you can, I mean, there's a measurement tool like on the Adams County thing. So I think we could really, you know, if we wanted to just take a minute, figure it out with certainty.
staff,
It would resolve the
Chair,
question.
would it be helpful to take a 2-minute break so
Yeah,
that we
let's-
can pull up GIS and take a measurement?
Yeah, let's take a break. Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Genius idea. We're taking a break?
But we get paid the big bucks. We earn our $50.
Are we ready to reconvene? Okay.
I guess 2 minutes wasn't
Okay,
quite
no
enough.
worries. We'll take more time.
We're pulling up Near Map, which is the GIS, so that we can show you the measurements.
Okay.
We also have a list of who was notified within the 500 feet, if that's helpful. No, I was just stating what we could do when,
Great, thank you. We'll go ahead and continue. And Mr. Chavez, I believe you have a screen to show us with the distance.
Yes, so on my screen are and I would like to emphasize rough estimates based off where the northeastern corner is, and then the orange lines are from the northeastern corner, and the blue lines are from roughly where the southern end of the building will be. And I'll move some of these around. From the northeastern corner, the closest existing residential unit is very roughly 720 feet to the, let's see if I can, nearest residential property line, and it should probably be this one, is roughly 350 feet. And then the, where's this one? To the nearest future residential, because this is platted for residential, is roughly 409 feet. Again, I'd like to emphasize that this is just a very much a eyeball location from the northeastern corner. And then for the southern portion, or the southern point of the building, the closest existing residential is roughly 910 feet to existing residential. To the nearest future residential property line, it's about 610. And then for the, let's see, move this. For future residential, it looks like it's about 665 roughly from where the southern portion of the building will be. And then for the mailings, 162 flyers were sent out, and because of the nature of the parcels, it included this long piece of land, the subject diamond piece of land, and then this long piece of land here. So every parcel within 500 feet of these three pieces of property received a mailing from the City of Commerce City.
So just to clarify for the record, those are not owned by residents. Residents do not live there. So the mailing did not go to the residential neighborhood, correct?
No, I think you misunderstood what Mr. Chavez was saying.
okay. Thank you.
He said notice went to those within 500 feet of those three properties,
Okay.
to all
Thank
the
you.
residents within 500 feet.
Okay. Thank you. That does make a difference. I appreciate that.
Was it legally noticed then? Did it meet the requirements of noticing?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Oh, were you going to display something else?
I was going to point out that the notice is sent to the property owners that are listed on the county GIS. So if someone, whatever the address is for the legal owner, that's where the mailing would have gone to.
Chair, if that works, and with the board, if we could move to deliberation, I would be in favor.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and at this time, I will now close the public hearing for this case. Is there any discussion from the board? Yes, Board Member Fry White.
Thank you. So out of the criteria, so we have 1, 2, and 3, and then subsection B, which is our fund and or question that we have to meet. In the initial analysis for B1, the noted goals for our comprehensive plan, city objectives, and harmony that is adopted by the residents of the city, I do have a hard time seeing those being met. In addition to the updated board staff analysis, my general understanding of and from when we've talked with staff during the hearing, is that what changed their mind is looking at the property as a whole, the whole property. But as the applicant mentioned, the only current actual plan is for the property, the section of property that is closest to tower, and the rest is concept drawings. And so I can see how staff may have moved by considering on this pedestrian connections in the points 1, 2, and 3 and 4 as maybe a reason to shift. But as was mentioned, those are concept and not solidified that it's going to be there. For goal, the residents are the ones who facilitate the development of a comprehensive plan. This neighborhood, and if you could please, Mr. Chavez, go to the neighborhood description. I think you have that on, yes, this one. It's talking about smaller scale, local serving commercial, mixed-use development. And the other descriptions also are talking generally about pedestrian bicycle connections. When I do look at the whole site overall, it is car-centric, which is generally appearing to be more focused on big box stores, which is fine, but for what we are being asked to consider is what do the residents want particularly, and I don't see that this particular case meets that one right off the bat. So that's my initial thoughts for the board.
Mr. Voltakis, do you have follow-up?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Member Fry, were you talking about, which report were you on? Because I have, were you on the April 14th or the May 12th? When you went down the list of?
I was just talking in general, but the initial comments for B1 that were not met included the environmental responsible city goals, character area goal 1.1, which is to provide neighborhood level services within residential areas as appropriate. So that one's a little bit more softer. Character areas goal 2.4, design an economy that creates a sense of community. That one I do agree with, which is harder for me to visualize because I can understand going to a car wash if you are a car fan, but I don't, like generally my brain thinks if you are a passionate car person, going through a mechanical car wash is different from building that sense of community than going to a hand wash where you get into the grill and really can do it yourself. Like I think those are a little bit different. The environmental goal, so practicing sustainable growth and environmental stewardship for goal 7. I have a hard time with that one as well. And housing in neighborhoods, goal 6.3, allowing neighborhood serving retail, office, and local neighborhood amenities. That one I think is a little bit weaker, but specifically 2, 4, and 7, I do have a harder time and agree with the initial analysis.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add and maybe throw this out there. I've spent, since we received this report, I read it. I read the report last month. I looked at the comp plan, attempted to see what's going on, and it sounds to me like this area, by the comp plan standards, wants small community-type based businesses, retail, flower shop, bookstore, walkable type businesses there. That's what I'm getting from the comp plan. I don't see large big box development there, but I'm seeing local type community development. And maybe I'm looking at the comp plan incorrectly. I'm not the expert. But I believe it's meant to a smaller scale. A car wash is a convenience, definitely, for the residents that live around there. But does it meet that standard of a community local type where you can foster community, like the comp plan says? Want a community-based walkable area, pocket parks, walkability. I know they're trying. Looks like they put in a sidewalk and maybe some patio, a patio that could maybe have some exercise equipment. Like, we didn't even get to the pedestrian packet that was in our report. I don't think you just lay down a slab of concrete and call it a gathering area. So that's where my feeling, just on the front end. I'm also torn by the comp plan as well, because the comp plan does mention economics. So these two of sustainability, economics, and goals, these core principles in the comp plan, two of them, one is economics, one is sustainability, listed on page 59. So I think these are hitting head to head. Which one's more important? That's what we're here to find out. We can put some conditions on the development.
Yeah, and I believe, Mr. Farwhite, you had further discussion. Oh, Board Member Leffel, go ahead.
I just wanted to say in the discussion, it seems as though there's a question about how far this really is to and from anywhere. It seems as though it's certainly closer than 1,000 foot to the nearest place where a house may be someday, lots that have been approved for residential construction. It appears as though it's much closer than 1,000 feet to those lots that are currently vacant, but nevertheless will someday quite likely have houses put on them. So there's some deception there regarding the dimensions. I think that could have been hammered out a lot better, a lot sooner than at the last minute when we finally have residents or as citizens come in and point out that there's a discrepancy in the dimensions. So I have a little trouble with that. And to other board members' points, you got a sidewalk that goes to nowhere. It starts at nowhere and it goes to nowhere. I don't even know where people would come to get on that sidewalk from, because there's no sidewalks that lead up to it. So I don't even see there's any point in that thing. And then your little seating area for people that I don't know where they would come to sit at that particular spot. It's a long ways from anything. There's nothing for them to want to come and sit there on the corner of these guys' car wash lot, watch cars get washed. And I don't think any real car guy is going to go to a mechanical car wash. There ain't no way. One little scratch and they're heartbroken. So your car guys ain't coming to that car wash. As far as community needs and what the community's asked for, if anybody ever paid any attention ever, they want a big grocery store, they want a big box store, and they want a restaurant. They couldn't care less about a car wash. They want food and household convenience items. I don't see anything about that on here. So I have some troubles with that the community is asking for this car wash. No, they're asking for restaurants and big box stores and someplace to get convenience that they need, a grocery store. So I don't know that there's a need. And we cried a lot about the nearest one's 2 miles away. Well, heaven forbid, if you're going somewhere, you're probably going more than 2 miles on that whole trip anyways. So the 2 miles is not, if you can't drive 2 miles to a car wash, well, just leave the thing in the garage and forget about it. So I think there's some things that could have been maybe clarified better in this case. Is a car wash a good thing? It's fine by me. People should have clean cars. But don't bring your case in here and try to deceive us with faulty dimensions and statements that are deceptive. Thank you.
Any other discussion by the board?
Councilmember Leffler, I don't know if there was deception. I don't believe that we had any deception. I think 1,000 feet, 500 feet. What's the purpose of the distance? Is it the noise or is it the traffic? It was noticed and legally. It met the requirements of noticing. I'm trying to figure out what the purpose of the distance is from the car wash property line to a residential house. For what purpose?
Well, I believe that was brought up to show that it was going to be far enough away that it would not affect those residences when it was 1,000. But the thing is, it's maybe really not 1,000. So it was brought up as an example to show how far away it was and how residents wouldn't be affected because it was 1,000 foot.
Okay.
But
Maybe an embellishment. I don't think it was an intentional deception at all. It was an unintentional embellishment,
Meetings been
approximation.
keep it with the board discussion.
So I don't think there's any deception. I'm just trying to figure out I don't think we have a lot of deception going on by both parties here. And I think you have arguments here for denying it, an argument for approving it. And I think if we use the comp plan and go by what we just put the comp plan in 2 years ago. The other one was here since 2010, I believe, I believe. And I may be wrong, I'm approximating.
Board Member Fry-White, you have some discussion to bring
I
up?
do want to clarify for the record that, for me, I don't think the insinuation that there was intimidation for residents, the insinuation that things were improper, I think that is a fault and should be very clear to the public that for us members, I don't believe that was the case. I don't think that should be taken into consideration when we make our deliberation. Our particular requirement is specifically B1 or B2, in my opinion. We are being asked to uphold what the community has adopted as our policies, objectives, goals, and communities. And the people here are the ultimate deciders of what we want, and we serve at their pleasure. Now, the particular, during our deliberation, specifically, it was the applicant mentioned that, you know, it's an arterial road, it's next to a highway, and I understand from a general, if you were just to come into our neighborhood, it would make sense that, this is going to be a very commercialized, big box store. Makes sense. Our residents have made it very clear that this particular corner is not to be big box store, large commercial, that this is supposed to be a more pedestrian-friendly development, more neighborhood services. Whereas, and you can see on the drawing, regional commercial is actually the next corner up. So this particular use might not work in this corner, but it definitely, from what the community is looking for in our comprehensive plan goals, meets the other corner. Now, that does stink for the current property owner, but in general, the goals and objectives for the community were not, in my opinion, made clear. And that conversation, it really stuck to me that, well, this is a arterial road and it's commercial, and I get that, but the community doesn't necessarily want to see that specifically on this corner. Could go in a different corner, which I'm supportive. Now, the idea, I was just thinking about, I want my car detailed. Like, that sounds great. I would totally go. But our requirement specifically is that B1 that I'm having issues with, and I don't see that one being met. Though I try to understand what is so uniquely different, and I don't see it. And I don't think, looking at the site as a whole, which is a concept, not what is actually being proposed today, should necessarily be considered, because we could make that determination today based on that concept, and a different concept comes altogether that completely warrants that support. It could be less neighborhood friendly. And we have to consider what is today and hold it accountable, and I don't think it's being met even though it sounds cool.
Councilmember Fry, so I'm hearing you don't agree with the use. Is that what you're saying? Basically?
The use itself, I think, is great, but that specifically in this criteria, which is B1, is asking us to uphold the development comprehensive plans, goals, and objectives very broadly. And the people have spoken that this is supposed to be for clinics, smaller scale, and
I think
might
it's,
be a way to see it, but that was not.
I think
like,
it's
was
described
trying
as
very
local
hard.
community is what I read in the comp plan. And you could make an argument that a car wash can bring in local community, but again, that's why we're here. Just, I want to throw out there to the board. I was driving down Tower Road just yesterday, and I think there's another car wash going up at 61st and Tower called Mr. Wash. So I just throw that out there. Car washes are popping up just about everywhere here. So maybe there's a need for them.
Board Member Fry-White? Oh, good.
So for my colleagues, I'm chatting about like how I'm having a hard time. Does anyone have a thought of how they see a car wash meeting the smaller retail? Because to me, like I can see how it could be. I'm just having those particular ones as I've noted. It was not a very solid case to me, from what I've heard, how this would meet this neighborhood concept, which is we're being asked for. I could not see it, but if someone else saw something, I would very much love to hear that thought.
Board Member Leffel, you had something to say?
I'm not sure the overall relevance, but it wasn't too many years ago, we had another car wash come in here. It's over by Walmart here in Commerce City. And they told us, what all they were gonna do and how many people were gonna work there and how great it was gonna be. Drive by it and take a look. It's been through like 3 different owners, and most of what they said they were gonna do hasn't really happened. That's no bearing on this gentleman. But they were going to employ a huge number of people and provide all these services to the city. Well, guess what? They kind of forgot about that part after we approved it. Thank you.
Councilmember Leffel, we can put conditions on this approval. So what kind of conditions or promises would you like to see, or do you just don't want to see the use?
I have really, honestly, I have no problem with the use at that location. I don't see that it's really particularly a problem at that location. A couple of things that are bothering me is the flip-flop by the planning department over a sidewalk and a picnic table. I didn't see that was that great. I don't have any problem with the car wash. People should have clean cars. I also am troubled by the dimensional differences that should have been perhaps looked at a little closer before this ever got here.
Dimensional, what is dimensional?
I'm going back to that 500 or 1,000 foot thing that we've harped on pretty far. I think we've accurately determined that it may be closer than 1,000 to a house that might be there someday. So I don't have a problem with the car wash, but I don't like to be given information that's inaccurate. Thank you.
Chair, I would like to make a motion.
Hold on, I've had my chance.
Oh,
yet.
sorry.
Go ahead, Board Member Poe.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Board Member Poe.
I've just been listening a lot. I think there's been a lot said. I think there's a lot of emotion, and things are getting, our job is to make sure that it fits within the comp plan, the use. I think the slide on it that's shown now, it's talk about neighborhood level retail services. I think a car wash fits that in that definition. I just would hope that the board would get past some of the information that's been given. I think there's a lot of understandings of what what distances from where to where. I don't think there was any deception on the part of the applicant. I just think that there was, maybe he didn't explain it well, what dimension he was talking about. I think the term flip-flop to me is a little disrespectful to staff. They're the professional planning staff. They had information in their first opinion and their first memo that they got additional information afterwards, which does change the conditions of their review, and I respect that with what they had in the packet. The noise is going to be arbitrary with the noise coming from Tower Road, and with the development that's going to occur around this car wash. I don't believe there's going to be any issue with that. The traffic, I think that you got to start someplace with these developments. I've been serving public communities for 30 years, and if you don't start someplace, then it cannot expand on itself. I think this area is suited for this type of use. If it's not a car wash, what is it? Is it a salon, a clinic? You can poke holes in just about every use that is allowed there. You may get a use that you don't want, that we don't have the ability to put conditions on or have a decision. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that we need to get past the minutia and the emotion and look at the case and the facts that are presented and what staff has given for us to make our decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes. Board Member Fryway?
Thank you. I'm glad you spoke up. So the board member Poe, so I can see how a car wash fits, possibly, but if you could please go into a little bit more detail about your thoughts, because the thing that I'm kind of on the fence about is, like, for the neighborhood, this description is talking about public gathering spaces and outdoor seating areas, but is incorporating attractive pedestrian-oriented environments, specifically visual appear and features sufficient for internal and perimeter pedestrian and bicycle connections. To me, when I look at the concept plan that was submitted, because that is what's making the staff difference, and I do appreciate you mentioning and clarifying about the flip-flop, that it was more information that came in that altered the staff plan, and I do recognize that, and I do appreciate you bringing that forward. I still have a hard time seeing a car-centric meeting a pedestrian-oriented environment, because when I look at that concept plan as a whole, and that's what staff is saying is what changed their opinion. When I see that, it further solidifies my initial opinion of that it is not pedestrian-oriented environment. It is a car-centric environment, which makes more sense in a regional commercial when I'm thinking more big box stores of any shape and size, not necessarily for a small clinic, a salon to get your nails done type environment. So if you could just go in a little bit more detail of how you see this use fit into that general description, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I think, we're trying to put everything into one, I guess, a round hole, a square peg and a round hole, and using the pedestrian component as the basis of this decision. I think you got to look at it from a whole perspective. You're not going to go walk, to some of the other places. You may be able to walk. This is a car-centric use. We're a car-centric community. It's tough to say that, but people in Colorado want to go to more multimodal. It's going to take years and years and years. And I think there's other ways that we can get to that point rather than turning down good uses where we have a landowner that is wanting to get development started in this area. It's been sitting for a while. They're in the business. I believe in the free market system. They've done some research. They believe this is a good area. I'm not in that business, but I trust that they have. It's their money. It's not my money. So that's just the way I feel about it. The car wash over by my house at 120th and Chambers, it is nonstop. It gets a lot of good use, and there's a lot of tax revenue. But to answer your question as far as the pedestrian component, I think you got to look at the whole thing as the whole development as a whole. You can't just parcel this out and say, well, it doesn't meet that, so we got to deal away with it. I think as this development grows and you get some of those shops that can serve the neighborhood, you got to strike a balance, and the world's about striking a balance. If you're going to lean on one side, you're never going to get anything accomplished. So it's just the way I think, the way I feel.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? No? Okay, all right. Can I get a motion and a second for case AU 25-0004?
I would like to make a motion.
Yes, please.
I move to enter a finding that the requested use by permit for the property located at 9880 Tower Road containing case AU 2025 fails to meet the criteria in the Land Development Code based upon such finding, and deny the the use by permit based upon the inability to meet criteria BI, specifically the harmony and the general purposes of the goals and objectives and standards of the comprehensive plan or any other plan or program adopted by the city, and that it does not meet criteria 2 as described by staff in the initial analysis.
Okay. Can I get a second?
What is 2 in the initial report?
To clarify, 2 is defined as there is a proven community need for the use at the proposed location, given existing and proposed uses of a similar nature in the area, and of the need to provide or maintain a proper mix of uses both within the city and the immediate area of the proposed use.
Would you like a second?
It's okay to die. And we can talk more.
I'd probably like to amend that, not amend it, but
Conditions?
a condition, I'm not going to second it, I'll tell you that.
Okay, no second? Okay. Continue the discussion.
So for criteria 2, which is where it might be softer for me, does anyone believe that one is being met for the general use? Because that is the second criteria, not just the general purposes, but for the proven need for the entire community overall.
As far as B2, I think that the car wash that's up at the corner at 104th and Tower, it's a total different use as far as a car wash is concerned. This one's going to be full service that's being proposed. The other one I've been to as well to clean other things than my car, because you can have a wash bay and you can just put quarters in it and use water as much as you want. It's not manned. There's somebody that comes there occasionally from what I've seen. So I think it's just a different business aspect. So I didn't know if I really agreed with that B2, that it doesn't meet it, but I know they were looking at it from just a general use in of itself, staff was. And I respect that. I just think that it's a different, I guess, business model when it comes to car wash.
We still have a motion on the floor?
No.
It died.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we could either call for another motion, or if the discussion of conditions, I don't know what that would look like. That
Okay.
seems like a big feat.
I think the discussion is specifically on item 2, because it's you can meet B1 or you can meet B2 in order to pass through. Now, I mentioned why I don't think it meets B1, but it could possibly meet B2. And Board Member Poe did mention that, which is very helpful, that it is a different use model and provides a different service that might not, in his opinion, is being seen in the community.
I think it was
which is why.
described as prototype. I don't know if that was the equipment or if that was the use. So the applicant did describe it as a prototype, so this is a new model for them.
But do you see some utilization of the use that would meet B2?
Yeah, I agree with the use in that area. As a general, I agree with that.
Do you have anything
I do.
like to make a different motion?
I'm sure I'll make a motion then. After this other discussion, I move that the Board of Adjustment enter a finding that the requested use by permit for the property located at 9880 Tower Road contained in case AU 25004 meets the criteria of the Land Development Code, and based upon such finding, approve the use by permit.
Can we get a second on this motion?
I'd like to amend that, a friendly amendment, maybe throw a condition on it that the applicant's outreach to the community, maybe sponsor some sports teams, DECA programs at the new high school, something of that nature, and do some community outreach, which would make it a more community-type based business. Maybe sponsor some car shows
I don't.
or
believe
community
we
shows.
could.
I don't know if we can do that.
I don't believe that would be within
We
our
can't do
purview
that?
to require.
No, we don't believe that those types of conditions are appropriate. As we stated before, they have to be related to the criteria, which are in the staff report.
I like your thoughts, though.
I thought maybe we could find some kind of middle there to create some kind of community development feeling and establish that, but apparently that's not possible as well.
Well, I have my kids wash my car, but I've also used those ones, used the self-wash, but I have seen their promotions for community outreach, because my son, he's always talking about the different stuff, and I'm not on social media, but I did have seen their outreach that way. I don't know about local community, but as somebody who doesn't really use that stuff, I have seen it, garner that kind of
I think it's a
attention.
perfect opportunity. I also believe that maybe this
Chair,
conception.
point of order, just because
did-
we have a motion on the floor and we're debating a motion amendment, which we have clarified that we cannot add those type of conditions. I would second Mr. Poe's motion so that we can then discuss your motion. I would, though, want to clarify before I do second, out of B1 and B2, in your motion, are you saying it meets both or just one?
I'll just go with their staff recommendation at this time for the one that they feel like it meets the criteria.
And just to, I want to clarify, so many figures.
Staff recommendation.
Okay. I would make a friendly amendment to your motion, Mr. Poe, that it does not meet B1, but your motion would be meeting B2.
Yeah, I could accept that as well.
Okay, then I will second.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion by Board Member Poe and a second by Board Member Fry White. Is there any discussion by the board before we open the electronic voting? Yes, Board Member Fry White?
If Mr. Poe could, if you could just talk a little bit more about your thoughts for the record about why B2 is met. The reason why I seconded is so that we can move on with our meeting, but if you could please talk about that one in particular.
I think just that, as I stated before, it's a different type of business. When it comes to a car wash, it's a full service. It's going to have people on site while the operation is taking place. It's going to be continually manned. And I think that the services with the detail is again, a different business model than the other car wash that's in the area. The other one is all the way at 104th and Chambers. So I just feel like that, just based on the business model that they're proposing, it meets, there is a need for that use in this area.
Does that satisfy Mr. Fry White? Okay. Any further discussion?
I think I would agree with Member Poe. If you throw the detailing in, they have 2 lanes to detail. They do have a building inside, 2 lanes, what is it, 4 or 6 squares or something. They do have a break room, I saw that on the site plan, and a gathering, not a gathering area, I'm sorry, a waiting area for the customers with a vending machine. But it is different from just a plain car wash in terms of service. So you bring up a pretty good point.
Thank you. Okay. Any discussion, any further? We good? Nope, all right. If we could please open the electronic voting.
And I'm sorry, this is to approve, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 4 yeses, 1 no, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on. Is there any board business to discuss at this time?
I would just like to point out, I really appreciate the research that some of our board
Yes,
members have
agreed.
done and the due diligence of reading the comp plan and going out. And,
Yeah, I thank you. I'd like to point out, too, that maybe some of these, not questions, but statements made, that the applicant take with them their business to the city and maybe implement some of those ideas.
And that's a heated discussion. I've been in Commerce City in both parts since 2003, so I know it's difficult, and there was a long time where there was no businesses, so I think with like in line with what Poe said, like, you know, hopefully if they build it, they will come and we'll start seeing some of the other stuff, but yeah, I appreciate everybody's time and all the input and dedication, so thank you.
I would like to discuss our flow for the meeting, specifically when we have more heated cases. I can understand the question, but I would like to see that our meeting flow is, once we have public comment, that if we have additional clarifying questions for staff or the applicant, that we would be asking, but it is not open for the staff or the applicant to respond to public comment. That is us as an input. It's not.
The proper etiquette, and the city attorney can add on, but is to allow the applicant the ability to rebut negative testimony that's provided in public comment.
That is correct. In terms of giving the applicant their rights under the hearing, they have to have an opportunity to respond to any public comment.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. This was just a little
Well,
convoluted and made it very uncomfortable. So that's,
Member Fry, I mean, as a protocol, I think you're right, but I think also additional questions come up in the process. Additional information shows up through the public testimony or the public comment, or maybe even through the applicant response. So,
I'm just reacting to kind of how it flowed this evening. It was
well,
very
we're not used to
confrontational.
doing these use permits, right? This is new to us, or at least
That's
new
my
to me.
comment.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on. If there's any attorney business to discuss at this time?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. And I know Nathan's not here. Is there any staff business to discuss at this time?
No, staff has no business. Thank you.
All right, so the time is, what is that? 8:59 PM?
Real quick, sorry to interrupt. Is anybody not going to be here next month? Because I just want to see if I can plan something maybe next month. And is anybody possibly may not be showing up because I won't plan anything that week? But
What's the date? Is it 19th?
The 9th, June 9th.
June 9th.
just real quick, I know the mayor's not here and then, but it just helps me out.
I'll be here.
Okay.
I'll be here.
That helps me in the planning
here.
of my life through the summer. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I should be here.
We appreciate you serving.
Well, the time is 8:49 PM and this regular meeting is adjourned. Thanks, guys.